So this week marked the 10-year anniversary since I became a licensed psychologist here in New York State. What most people don't know is that in the US, every psychologist is a doctor, but not every doctor is a psychologist. So I'll let that sink in. It may not mean much in the general public, but here's what it means to me. I spent a decade holding space for others, helping name and navigate what's really going on for people, being held to 10 unwavering ethical standards that we practice as psychologists, guided by the notion of do no harm. Getting the license was not an easy task. It included a lot. It included getting your clinical hours. It took thousands of hours, either through practicum, internships, externships, tons of coursework, a postdoctoral fellowship, and then finally our licensing exam, equivalent to like boards. And that exam was crazy. You literally can graduate to be a doctor of psychology, but if you don't pass that test, you're cooked. You still can't call yourself a psychologist ethically, legally here in the States. So yeah, it's that serious. And honestly, I almost didn't even make it. So what I didn't know back then is that I had unrecognized, undiagnosed, and unaddressed ADHD. And studying was already tough enough, but it wasn't because I didn't know the material. It was more so because I couldn't focus on the parts that bored me to tears. And knowing that and knowing the weight of this exam really bothered me. It definitely created a perfect storm for me to have crash outs almost every day that I was sitting down to try to study. And yeah, I had test anxiety for sure, but it wasn't just because of the fact that it was high stakes. This exam, I'd heard stories of people who've taken the exam and they had to take it over several times, or who just took the exam and passed it, but like they would give you those warnings. But ultimately, it was one of those things that needed to happen in order for me to be able to practice psychology and help people. And so it was a heavy weight for me. And again, not just because I wasn't as motivated to study the things that weren't as interesting to me, but I would have anxiety. The test wasn't just testing my knowledge. It was testing my patience. It was testing my executive functioning. And let me tell you, I didn't know that I was in a battle that I wasn't fully equipped for. Honestly, it's because I had been doing it for so long. Kindergarten all the way up to post-graduation of my doctorate. No diagnosis, no recognition. And so it became a real shock to me. And reflecting back, especially understanding the symptoms of ADHD, I wish that I had the knowledge of what it really meant. And I wish that those that were with me, therapists, educators, professors, mentors, had the information to be able to say, hey, I noticed that this is happening. Let's talk more about it and understand what's going on. I kind of white knuckled it all the way through. And so I clearly don't want that for any of you, which is why I'm sharing this story today. So back to the story. If you've got ADHD, you know the deal. Rereading the same question 50, 11 times, accidentally skipping lines on the answer sheet, building systems to triple check you're not self-sabotaging, having the right answer but in the wrong place, misunderstanding those double negatives that are in the questions, especially those long worded problems. Still, after you've done all those checks underneath a time crunch, you leave the exam still worrying that the score that you're going to get is not really fully representative of what your knowledge base is, right? Back then, I thought I just had really bad test anxiety, but it turns out I was struggling with a whole invisible challenge that no one helped me name. But listen, this isn't a sad story, not even one that I'm ashamed of. It's a story of triumph, a story with a few emotional casualties along the way. And I'm sharing this because struggles could hide in plain sight. And if you don't have the right information, you can suffer in silence. If you don't have the right people, you may mislabel your experience. You might even think that it's all in your head. Honestly, if you don't have the right mindset, you might give up on something meant for you. And I would really hate to see that for you. Today, I'm celebrating 10 years in as a licensed psychologist from the lens of someone who gets it. So I'm hoping that you find this story helpful, encouraging, and I'd love to hear more about the journeys that you've been having understanding your own ADHD. Please feel free to share comments, follow, subscribe, and I'm hoping to see you back here very soon. Take care.